All right, I'm Harry Bleeler. I'm the chair of the Media, Culture, and the Arts program. I've been here 16 years. I was born in New Jersey, but grew up in Delaware, North Carolina, and of late from Florida. Moved here about 16 years ago to work at King's. And I primarily teach the required courses for a number of majors, the Arts and Ideas sequence, which is a humanities overview of world culture, and a few cultural history courses here and there. Is that good?
Yeah, that's perfect. Dr. Mueller, we're heading to you.
Right, great. So my name's Paul Mueller. I grew up in Colorado. It's actually where I am now. My wife and I own a bed and breakfast in Colorado, so we're here enjoying the snow and the sunshine. But I teach in the Politics, Philosophy, and Economics department. I'm going to be the chairman of the department starting in the fall. And I teach mostly economics courses, although I bring in a lot of both philosophy and politics into the courses that I teach, because things are connected in all kinds of interesting ways. So, you know, as you'll hear more at different times, the reason we have politics, philosophy, and economics as a major as opposed to any of those individual disciplines, we think that there are important connections. They complement each other well. So I teach some required courses, some electives, but I like to look for the connections. So,
and if anyone was wondering, that is Dr. Mueller's normal beard. That's not a quarantine beard. That's just how he always looks fantastic. So
that's true.
Yeah. Dr. Caballero?
Hi, I'm Dr. Dami Kabiawu. Dami is short for Oluwa Damilola. So in the spirit of full disclosure, there you have it. I've been at King's for about 5 years now. I just celebrated 5 years this past semester. And I'm originally from London. I was born in London, brought up in Nigeria, and I've been in the States about 10 years now. So a little bit of this and that. I teach finance courses at King's College. So I also teach finance courses, the ones that depend on Excel, like financial modeling. I teach Excel. Basically, everything I teach revolves around finance. So yes.
Perfect. All right, Dr. Bleeler, we'll head back to you. Can you tell us a little bit about your story and how you ended up at King's?
Sure. Well, I knew from a pretty young age that I wanted to be a teacher. And as I got older, I realized that I wanted also to be able to teach at a place where I would be free to embrace my faith as part of my discipline and research. And I had a lot of stops and starts along the way, eventually getting my PhD with the desire to teach at a Christian college. And I assumed I would teach at an average, typical Christian college outside of a city, sort of in the suburbs or up a lovely river, but away from the city life. And one of my colleagues here at the King's College had already been hired here, and I would come to visit him, and I started to ask God, why him, not me? I should be in the city. I love the city. I used to visit New York regularly to visit with friends and enjoy the culture. And after a few years, a spot opened up for a historian, and it was in the very early years of King's getting back on its feet and relocating to the city. And in the spring and summer of '04, I was hired. And so I've been here ever since. And, tell everyone this is my dream job. I don't, Harvard or Yale could never pull me away. This is where I want to be. I love being in New York City and utilizing the city as part of our classroom and being in a Christian environment. It's great.
Yeah, thank you. Mm-hmm. Dr. Mueller, we'll answer the same question for all of our faculty members. And just a reminder for everyone watching, if you click on the top right to gallery view, it'll just show the four of us all together, which may be a little bit easier to watch it. So.
Sure. So my connection to King, I went to Hillsdale College, and then I went to DC and worked for a couple of years at sort of a think tank charitable foundation there. And I also was interested in ideas and reading and teaching. And so I went to George Mason University, which is in the DC area, to study economics. And as I mentioned, economics, but also sort of political philosophy and intellectual history. And, you know, I applied to a bunch of places coming out of graduate school where I figured, you know, wherever I went, I you know, would enjoy teaching. And, you know, had interviews at a few places, but when I came to King's during the interview process, I was really struck by the students I talked with and the questions that they asked and what they had studied. And I was also really struck by the other faculty members there, that there was a level of warmth and camaraderie, and, you know, they knew each other. And that was a little bit foreign, because George Mason University, it's a really big department. The econ department there is really large. And there's certainly pockets of camaraderie, but there's very much a lot of silos of like, okay, these 3 or 4 professors know each other, these 2, and then you've got students in this group and students in that group. And so it was very kind of isolated and independent and fragmented. And coming to King's, I really appreciated how professors across disciplines really knew each other and you know, engaging in ideas and their personal life. So that, plus the mission of the college, which is to be a Christian witness and to engage not from the sidelines, but from the center of culture, to really not be afraid of ideas, not be afraid of people who think differently, not be afraid of, you know, a secular culture and sometimes a culture that is hostile to Christianity, but being willing to go there, mix with the people, talk about ideas, and be involved in bringing a Christian perspective to culture and society were very attractive to me and my wife, and something that we wanted to do, that we wanted to be Christians and think deeply, but also be involved in conversations about, you know, media and TV and finance and all these other sorts of things that are happening. So anyway, so all of that kind of mixed together, King's seemed like a really good fit, even though my wife and I never thought we'd end up in New York or near New York City. But those are some of the things that brought me to King's.
That's great. Thank you. And Dr. Kabiawa.
For me, I was a programmer for many years before I became a professor. And when I was going to do my PhD here, I was asked to get a transcript from my school in London, and I realized I didn't know anyone. I spent 4 years in college and I didn't really interact with any of my professors. And that was normal. There's nothing surprising or shocking about it. I just attend class, and when I'm done, I'm done. And so when I had to go get references and transcripts, I looked for someone who remembered where I sat in class. And I was that student who always sat in front of the class, but I never participated. I never spoke to anyone. None of the professors reached out to try and get to know me. So I didn't know anyone. I had to go back and reintroduce myself. And then I finished my PhD program here, and I was looking for a school to teach at. I'd done a few interviews prior to coming to King's, and what struck me was the relationship between professors and students. It kind of opened my eyes to what a learning relationship is supposed to look like. I went around with a colleague of mine, she's since left King's, and she would walk past students and call them by name and ask them how their families are doing. She knew who was firstborn in the family. And that just blew my mind. I thought, I've been looking for where I fit in teaching. I was a Christian, so clearly I'm coming to King's because I think this fits with my faith. But with my personality and what I envision the teacher-student relationship to be, that was the embodiment of it. And I broke protocol. You know, I spoke to them at King's, and I said to the interviewer, I said, you tell me that you want me and I'll stop interviewing, because this is exactly what I want to be doing. This is how I think I can add value. And since I've become a professor, I will tell you that we have amazing students. Now, I can't speak for all students, right? But 90% of students is a good estimate of students. I have students who miss class and send me a note to tell me they're going to miss class. I have students who sit through my lecture and send me a note to say thank you. I mean, who does that? I don't know about you, but I've never been to school where I'm thanking my professors for doing their job, basically. But we've got excellent students, and every day we go to class is a delight. We've been locked up, clearly, for a while. And even now, you know, because of the joy they bring me, I always wake up in the morning thinking, okay, how am I going to make today easier for the students who have to deal with what they have to deal with right now? I don't know if you noticed, my hair is red right now. This is my second iteration of red, right? Because they love it so much. I always think, okay, what am I going to do with my hair next? Unfortunately, you missed that. I'm going to purple next, but you know, it is what it is. But that's how we've been dealing together with what life is handing us.
Do students get to like vote on the next hair colors?
No, no, but it's always a shock to them, right? They open, I get on my video like, oh, okay. And then we have a conversation about life in general. So it's always a nice little surprise every time.
Yeah, you got to keep the classroom interesting, so, you know, one way or another.
That's what it is, yes.
I'm going to popcorn around and try to cover some ground here. So, Dr. Mueller, this one comes to you. We have a unique program at King's centered around politics, philosophy, and economics. We heard about it a bit from our president, but can you just talk us through a little bit more of why that is a good foundation for all of our different majors here at King's?
Yeah, so one thing you'll get at King's that's pretty rare, only a few places you'll get, is kind of an integrated course curriculum where all of students are going to take a lot of the same classes, you know, across whatever majors they end up doing, across whatever fields they end up doing. And, you know, that's very intentional on our part of trying to think about what are some of the most important ideas, the most important conversations and debates that have gone on in history, the most important events in history. What have people learned about what it means to be human, what it means to be a Christian, how to live well with others? And so our core curriculum, which politics, philosophy, and economics is kind of the center of that, but of course we have Bible classes and history and other things as well. But the politics, philosophy, economics, you know, it really kind of spans the scope of life that we live in, that we live in political communities where we have to vote and have representatives and have conversations about laws and how we live together. We live in a world that God's made where we have to make decisions about what we're going to do with our time and how we're going to live. What it means to live well and to be content and to serve God well. And so philosophy is helpful there. And then, of course, God's put us in a material world where there's all kinds of things that we need in order to survive, and then other things that we don't necessarily need but are helpful to living well and to loving others well. And economics is about understanding how things are produced and exchanged and used in the institutions that allow us to do that well. So all the way that we at the college, we have a core curriculum to help people develop to become better human beings and faithful followers of Christ and good citizens and good members of their churches, and to, you know, be good husbands or wives or parents or whatever it might be, that we very much take this view on the curriculum side, and also, as Dami was saying, on the personal side, that we really want to get to know our students and encourage them and talk with them about, you know, challenges that they face and how they can grow and you know, for others well. And so it's this kind of complete package that is really exciting to be a part of and challenging. And I would echo what my colleagues have said, that, you know, I really am impressed with what our students are able to do and their thoughtfulness and carefulness as they go out into the world. So PPE is kind of a big part of that core of the curriculum, but it's just part of, you know, many other things that we do at King's for students and for our life together.
Thank you. Yeah, that's great. Dr. Bleetler, this is going to be to you. You teach in our Media, Culture, and the Arts program, and I think you used the line that New York City is an embarrassment of riches when it comes to especially that program. So can you just talk a little bit about how we integrate as a college New York City into the classroom and what kind of opportunities students get from being in New York?
Well, it really is. New York City is arguably the center of the world for so many institutions and organizations and businesses, conglomerates. And so we have access to all this. And so one of the things, certainly in MCA, we're able to take advantage of the world of media and the arts very easily. And so we have professors who might be teaching a course on documentary filmmaking, who brings in people who are famous documentary filmmakers to talk about their craft. In my classes, I talk a lot about art history, and so I'm going to take students to the Metropolitan Museum of Art as part of my class. And what's great about that is that it's very often the students are thumbing through their textbook and they'll see a picture or an image of a piece of art or an object or an artifact. And I can say, well, that's here in the city. This is in such and such a museum. And so when we go to the Met, and we do that a couple times a semester, we're very often looking at the things that are in our books. That's a horrible thing to waste. And it's a lot of work taking students regularly to the Met. There's a lot of logistics involved, subways and crowds, but I don't know that I could not do it, because it's there for us. And so we just have extraordinary cultural riches, and this goes beyond just MCA. I mean, our business program is in the financial district. You know, we're right off Wall Street, so the access that we have to the movers and the shakers is just really unparalleled. Coupled with that, and this again goes across all majors, is the opportunities for internships here in the city, and that's I think a huge sell for why you go to the effort and trouble to go to college in New York City. I think it's a wonderful and exciting thing to do, but it's a big city and there's a lot to learn when you get here. But the opportunities for our students to intern at the top organizations in their fields in the world is right here before us. And while we can't guarantee a student's going to get an internship anywhere, we can do what we can to help. But I'm regularly floored at the internships that our students get, that they help put together, that they do some of the legwork. We help them as well, but they find, and all of our students have been to all the major media at the top rate media conglomerates. We're starting to move into the museum world. And so it's a very exciting opportunity, and business obviously right outside the door if we want it, and anyone who is anyone in the world comes through New York City at some point. They are coming by to talk about their new book, their new film, their new play, their new whatever, their new record, and so it's almost a nonstop opportunity to see the world right in front of us, because it really is our backyard. I jokingly call the Metropolitan Museum of Art the King's College Art Gallery, because we're so regularly there as a class. And much to my delight, when I go there on my own for my own personal edification, I usually about 50% of the time I bump into students or alum who just so happen to be there at the same time. So I think we're doing something right in the way we integrate our curriculum into the city itself.
Dr. Bleetler, do you have like a VIP line that they like let you in separately with like a glass of champagne or something?
No, I don't have that, but I do know the shortcuts.
Oh,
so I know how to work the system in a good way, in a nice Christian way, nothing illegal, but I know how to get through and sort of avoid certain places so that it's a little bit easier to do. So
I'm just imagining like in the Egyptian wing, you like press a door or like a wall and it slides over. Some mummies back there or something.
Yeah, that actually is true. They do have that stuff back there. I've been back there once or twice myself, but I haven't gotten students in yet.
Nice. I like that. Okay. I want to keep us on track, and that means we have to go directly into question and answer time. And this one came in, and Dr. Kabiawu, I thought of you. So Can you talk a little bit about the relationship between faculty and students and how we put those two together?
The relationship between faculty and students is one of my favorite things about King's. We get to learn about the students during office hours. They talk to us about their classwork because we have an open door policy. I think that's what most of my colleagues have as well. We talk to them about life in general. I remember where a student walked into my office because she was so mad at someone else. And we had this whole conversation about you not being able to control other people. You can control yourself and your reaction to people, but you know, you can't control other people's actions. So interesting conversations. But in the time I've been at King's, I've had students that have gone with me to Six Flags with my members of my family just for a day out. We've done restaurant hops. I've taken students to a Nigerian restaurant. And let me tell you, it's always a delight to go there because you get to sample all the innards and everything that Americans generally don't eat. So I spend all the time just laughing at people in an evil way. It's always fun for me and for them.
Yeah.
There's so much, even now, as a graduate, as students have graduated from King's, they still are part of our lives. I've been to weddings, I've been to namings, I've been to events, I've worked with people on the projects that they're doing outside of school now that they've graduated. And even with the new students, I always tell this funny story of a student of ours whose parents called to talk to me before she came to King's. And this student came to visit me. She said, "Can I come and visit you and your family?" And I said, "Okay." And I look out of my window and there's her mom. She's basically brought her mom to spend the weekend with me and my family. And I found out when she walked to my door. So very funny story, but it is the kind of relationship that we build with our students here. And I absolutely love that about King's.
That's awesome. Thank you so much. We have one more question, or time for one more question. And Dr. Bleetler, I'm going to head back to you on this one. What opportunities are available for students interested in acting?
In acting. All right, so if you've looked at our curriculum, we don't have an acting major. We have the MCA program, and you can do a concentration in theater. So it's sort of like a theater minor. And because we can't offer a full smorgasbord of theater classes that a major would want to take, we do allow our students to take classes in the cities, at other places, and we have arrangements. We have, at least right now, we've had one official arrangement and two unofficial arrangements with acting studios here in the city where students can take advanced acting classes that count as King's credit. In terms of opportunities, we have two opportunities on campus. We have a student group that regularly performs throughout the year, the King's Players. And then at the moment, once a year, we do a spring, usually it's a spring musical. And that is put together and run by a creative team of professionals. So the show is actually being staged by people that work in New York City theater. And so what happens is our students get to know the professionals and they get to work with them side by side. And whether they're backstage or on stage, they start making connections. And it's a really great opportunity. And we've seen our students really move from working from acting on stage to getting jobs elsewhere. And I think you can probably hear sirens out my window. Is that right? Yes? Okay. Yeah. The sounds of the city. Yeah, it's what I think is important about King's is we have a really unique community here. And if a student just wants to act, they should probably go to a conservatory. But if they want a well-rounded education that educates the whole full person and really wants an opportunity to learn really what their strengths are, what their gifts are, and then wants to work with the contacts that we have in our industry, in the theater industry, this is a great place to do it. We regularly have particularly in the theater community, we regularly have Tony Award-winning and nominated actors, directors, musicians on campus to talk to our students. So you know, if there's any questions, I'd be happy to route them towards Chris Craig-and-Day, our theater professor. It's a unique place to do theater, but it's really a wonderful place. And if there's questions, I'd be happy to help students sort that out.
Awesome. Thank you. Dr. Mueller, this last question is actually coming to you, and we have 60 seconds. So what do students go into, like after graduating with a PPE degree? What kind of jobs do they get?
Yeah, all kinds of jobs. I mean, part of what is neat about the PP degree is how versatile it is. So we have people who go to law school, people who go into politics, we have people who go into business or programming or finance, a few people who go into media. So there's really no, you know, not even one or two main things that PP graduates do. It really is a springboard for a lot of things. And a lot of people who come and major in it, they kind of learn over time what they're interested in by being in the city, by doing internships, by taking some other classes in the college. And so it really is very wide open in terms of what students do. And part of what the PPE major especially is good at is helping people be flexible and, you know, mobile and trying to figure out where they can add value and where they can do a career, whether they stay in the city or they go back to their home or they go somewhere else. There's really a tremendous amount of variety of what people do.